I'm gonna be honest, we're about to react to your most unpopular Black Ops 6 Zombies opinions. I've been getting roasted for this for quite some time, but ladies and gentlemen, shout out to my boy Expert Fusion.
It is time to react to some of your guys' unpopular opinions about the launch of Black Ops 6 Zombies.
Some of these are gonna be heated.
Admit, a lot of these I wouldn't really classify as hot takes, to be honest, but some of them are. Some of them I just wanted to include because I thought it'd be interesting to talk about. First one here comes from Jack Lonan. This is by far the best Zombies launch we've ever had.
I agree.
And it's not
I
even
actually
close.
agree with this.
The gameplay is fun, the storyline is interesting, the community is engaged, and the maps appeal to both casual and hardcore
it's the
players.
best of both worlds.
Plus, the game is quite stable in terms of crashing. When it comes to actual launches, not even BO3 comes close, as it was not as refined at its launch.
That's an unpopular opinion.
I wouldn't call this my favorite launch of Zombies ever, but it's definitely up there. I would definitely...
I'm going to be honest. This is the most stable Call of Duty Zombies launch ever to be dropped. Like, so many people are engaged, you know, either playing Liberty Falls for the casuals or hardcore as well for the Terminus players. Like, I'm impressed. Like, I did not expect BO6 to launch this well.
Maybe even the top 4. I still think Black Ops 3 is the best launch of Zombies, and I know that's...
I think for the hardcore players, it definitely is, but for casuals, a lot of people steered clear from BO3 Zombies. That's, like, the biggest issue.
Definitely going to have some people confused because, yes, a lot of people were complaining about Shadows of Evil on launch. A lot of people had their issues with it. I was not one of those people. I was in awe of Shadows of Evil.
I was playing this map every single day until DE came out. Literally.
So much fun with it, and it was a groundbreaking experience in Zombies, at least for me personally. And the Giant was there as just like a side map to mess around on as well.
I will say though, like Black Ops 6 has a better balanced launch for sure. Like BO3 definitely appealed way more to the hardcore fans, which is why I think I personally liked it.
But for me, that is easily going to be the best launch. Black Ops 4 is probably a close second, and that also might confuse a lot of people because, of course, there was a lot of issues with crashing. And
I would put this like dead last, to be honest. The BO4 launch might have literally been the worst thing that ever happened to Zombies, low-key. Like, it was
I personally did not experience crashes in Black Ops 4's launch. I actually don't think I crashed a single time, except for once while I was playing in Custom Mutations, and I made it so it was Brutus only on Blood of the Dead. Like, of course...
Anybody that did the Easter egg has a completely different story, let me tell you.
It's going to cause a crash when you have 50 different Brutuses coming at you at once. Like, that was expected. But when it comes to doing Easter eggs and other stuff like that, I didn't crash at all. I was on Xbox, didn't happen. And
I heard Xbox was a lot more stable than PlayStation for some reason. Like, I didn't
really go for high rounds, so I guess it's probably why I didn't crash. I was just doing the Easter eggs, but those were very smooth for me, and I didn't really have many issues. So I personally had a great time with having 4 maps at launch, and I was personally really loving those maps. Even to this day, I
didn't like it because it felt like the community was so spread thin. Like, oh, what are you Easter egg speedrunning? Freaking 9, Voyage of Despair, Classified. Nah, man, I'm trying to get to round 150.
I like those maps, but I don't think I like them as much as I did at launch, but I was in awe of that experience. And then Infinite Warfare with Zombies in Spaceland, I mean, that was a great...
IW was a great launch. It's just people were so butthurt after Revelations that I think people just didn't give Spaceland the time of day. I would say IW definitely has the most underrated
experience for me personally, as well as my favorite map of all time, so I had so much fun with that. Black Ops 6, though, the launch has been very solid. There has been some issues with me when it comes to stability. I know a lot of people haven't had any sort of crashing issues. I haven't had any crashing issues necessarily, but there's been a lot of glitches otherwise.
I would say the only thing I've had is the always online lag in solo. That's like the biggest issue, and I just don't think that's fixable on BO6 unless the servers get an upgrade or something. I don't know.
Like just complete lag in solo matches somehow, which is just what's been happening with COD HQ games in general, unfortunately. But I definitely think this launch is definitely up there. There's so much content to mess around with. The maps are fun.
One of the
gameplay is smooth.
Easily the most balanced launch we've ever had.
That is definitely a good thing. Next opinion comes from DJAK. DLC 1 is probably the most important map to see how the rest of the life cycle will look like, and maybe even for COD 2025.
I'm really curious, like, I think Primus and Chaos Crew are going to somehow be emerged in this DLC 1. That's why I think it's going to be
rumored to be BO7. So I actually agree with this quite a bit. I think DLC 1 is usually
not really
the most
unpopular,
though. A lot of people might think it's the launch maps, but I feel like DLC 1 really tells you the direction of...
Think about it this way, like, if DLC 1 isn't good, why would you buy the rest of them, right? Like, think about it back in, like, BO3. You know, it's like most people love the DLC because DE was so good. And you look back at a game like BO2, not a lot of people like Die Rise, so they only bought Mob of the Dead and Origins, right?
Where the game might be leading. And of course, that's not always the case. I mean, look at Black Ops 2. Yeah. Obviously, Die Rise was not indicative of the rest of the DLC of Black Ops 2. Literally. But when you look at some other games, I think DLC 1 does set the stage quite substantially. And especially because DLC 1 is coming so soon, we're literally getting it next month.
3 days away now.
It is very, very important.
Yeah.
And for me personally, if the map is more similar to Terminus, then we are in for a good DLC season. Yes. If it's more similar to Liberty Falls,
it's going to be more similar to Terminus from what I'm seeing from the Easter eggs, which is very exciting.
Then unfortunately, I think we're probably not going to be in for that good of a DLC season. At least for me. I like Liberty Falls, don't get me wrong, but I don't think Liberty Falls should be the style of map they go for with the DLC maps. Yeah. Right now, the rumor is that we're going to get 4 DLC maps. Yeah. It doesn't say any more than that.
4 DLC maps for BO6, and then 4 DLC as well for BO7. And then we might be getting Advanced Warfare 2 after that. Isn't that crazy?
So I think we're just going to get, 4 regular maps, and that's about it. I don't think there's going to be any extra bonus maps or anything like that. So hopefully these maps are going to have the same quality and depth of Terminus, or maybe even more than that.
Next time, they might actually have more. Like, looking at that Citadel cinematic, it's like, bro, what are we doing? Like,
your opinion comes from Video Vigilante. I kind of prefer Liberty Falls to Terminus. Don't get me wrong, Terminus is an amazing map too, but I just really vibe with Liberty Falls. I love BO2 Town, and Liberty Falls feels like an expanded version of that, which is amazing.
I hate to agree with this, but it's like I've put probably 80% more time into Liberty Falls than the 20% I have in Terminus. And that's not because Terminus is a bad map. It's because Liberty Falls is easier to grind camos, right? But I think over time, I'll play more Terminus, more Citadel, obviously.
I love how it's so easy to jump in and just slay. Yeah. It's great to have a simple casual map alongside Terminus.
That's what I mean. Like, Liberty Falls is just town with an Easter egg. It can't be bad.
The side Easter eggs are also incredible. The bowling Easter egg is my favorite, but there's so many fun ones that are easy to do, which is great. Yeah. So obviously I don't agree with this. I've said many times before over the past week that I do definitely prefer Terminus over Liberty Falls, but I definitely respect the opinion, and I think a lot of people are going to share this opinion if you prefer a simpler map. That's kind of just how it is. The map is obviously a lot easier to get into. It's a lot easier. I wouldn't say it's necessarily like a ton easier when you get into the high rounds, because there is a lot of mangler spam on Liberty Falls, maybe even more so than on Terminus. So the high rounding, I wouldn't say is like a lot easier, but just generally speaking, the rounds are much simpler to get through, and the Easter eggs a lot easier, and the side Easter eggs are also a lot simpler too. There's not nearly as many complex.
I love the simple side Easter eggs. Like, I've been asking for this for years, especially after like BO3 and BO4 side Easter eggs, where it's like somebody just solved the BO4 side Easter egg like a month ago, I think, and it's like, dog, the game's from 2018.
Side Easter eggs. I wouldn't say Terminus really has that many either, but there's a couple more on Terminus that maybe take a little bit longer to do. I definitely am okay with them going in the direction of doing one harder, more complex map and then one simpler, easier map. Yes. I do feel like they didn't go far enough into that direction, though. Terminus really doesn't feel nearly as complex as I was hoping.
I agree with that. I even saw Expert Fusion tweet out like he wished that sharks were in the water on Terminus. I agree. They probably were going to do that, but I think they wanted to make the boss a little bit more like a part of the map, so they made his smoke the thing that chases you. But in a way, I do get what he's saying. Like, the thing is like a lot of the hardcore fans now are used to like the hardcore nature of BO4. And it's like, I don't think we get BO4 stylized maps ever again, personally, with that level of depth. I just don't think Treyarch saw that a majority of players were enjoying that type of depth, you know?
I do think it's definitely closer in that direction, but I wouldn't put it on the same level as like the really complex maps through Call of Duty's history. And I think if they really wanted to make it clear that these maps are supposed to be extremely different, they probably should have gone a little bit further with it. But I do think in general, that concept makes sense. So you have one map for each style of player. I do think it would be better though if they made both maps casual accessible, which I do think both of them are.
I think that's kind of been done now with like the standard and directed mode. You know, like a lot of people I see just playing directed mode just to play directed mode, like not even to do the Easter egg, you know? And I think that's a great inclusion.
But also both maps have enough complicated and complex things within them that you can do. And a good way to do that would be through side Easter eggs. So obviously I'm totally fine with there being a lot of easy side Easter eggs that are simple to do, like the bowling one, for example. You just shoot 4 things around the map, or 5 things, whatever, and you get into the bowling thing. That's fine. But I do think Liberty Falls just should have had maybe like 1 or 2 other side Easter eggs that are a bit more complex, maybe include some sort of puzzle, obviously make them optional, But just having those extra things just to give a more hardcore player something to do, I think would have been fun and interesting.
I agree.
And that is my only main complaint with Liberty Falls right now.
I think that they just literally wanted to keep the mentality of Liberty Falls, casual, easy side Easter eggs. Terminus, hardcore map, harder side Easter eggs, right?
Now is that I feel
that's
like
literally just the whole
but it
mentality.
really just didn't bother to.
Yeah.
Next unpopular opinion comes from Thunderstruck 115. Liberty Falls is only a few notches above Cold War's maps in terms of map design.
I feel like it's about the same. I wouldn't even say it's notches up.
But it's still so much more fun due to the massive improvements to the mechanics.
I agree. Like, the reason I like Cold War and BO6 is because the mechanics are just so polished comparatively to the previous games.
So I definitely agree with this. I think Liberty Falls is very similar to Cold War's maps in terms of
100%.
just its simplicity and how it's designed, how it's very open. I definitely think the map fits perfectly in Cold War. Like, you could take Liberty Falls, put it in Cold War, and it would probably work just fine and feel very similar to the other maps in that game. But obviously having BO6's mechanics, which are a lot better and a lot more difficult, I wouldn't say like nearly as difficult as some people are saying, but definitely more difficult than Cold War, it makes the experience a lot better. So although Liberty Falls itself I wouldn't say is much better than the Cold War maps, I definitely think it is more fun because of what you're mentioning here, the mechanics just being a lot better. Next take comes from Joshua Marty. BO6 story so far is more interesting to me than BO3.
That's crazy. Okay, I want to hear this.
BO3 is mostly about killing the Ultimus crew one by one and doesn't have as much of a mystery as the Black Ops 6 story.
That's true.
With the Liberty Falls cutscene ending, Maya's unknown brother, and etc.
I think that is like kind of what is interesting with this newer storyline is there's definitely a lot more questions because back in the day, man, you would just see Dempsey get killed in DE and you'd be like, okay, time to take out Takio, time to go on and take out Nikolai, you know? But with this game, bro, I don't know. We could be going to freaking Mars for DLC 2 and I wouldn't be surprised at this point.
I personally do think I was more interested in the BO3 story, at least at...
I think that's the thing. Like, the BO3 story had leads where you could kind of guess where they were going. BO6 is just like, no clue.
This current
Literally
moment,
no clue.
But I do think the reveal of what we got at the end of the Terminus cutscene, and spoilers for people who haven't seen the ending cutscene for Terminus yet, but the whole thing with Chaos being revealed to have some sort of role to play in this BO6 story. Now, we don't know exactly what that role is going to be. It can totally end up being something not that significant, which I'm really worried it's not going to be significant because I hope it is.
I see that is such a great point. If they just bring up the BO4 Chaos assets and just sort of tease it, I would be disappointed by that. But seeing Citadel Day more now, where they literally have these giant like warrior statues and like all this stuff, that's what makes me think we're in for something crazy good.
I hope it's a big part of the story going forward. That would make me way more interested in the Dark Ether story to the point where it might even get more interesting than Black Ops 3. That's entirely possible. But at this current moment, I do still think I was more attached to what was going on in BO3, but I totally respect the intrigue in the story here. And I definitely think there is a lot to be interested in.
For sure.
But I think Cold War just didn't really do enough to grab me onto the story itself. And so since it's taken so long.
I always just think of Cold War now as the pandemic video game. It's like had the least amount of development, 6 months, just really didn't have enough to set things up. And it is quite impressive that they took all these little bits and narratives and they're all sort of tying it up with a bow with BO6. And that to me is literally the greatest thing that they could have done, you know?
For me to finally get into the Dark Ether story, I don't think I'm quite there yet where I'm like really, really invested, but I think it's definitely possible that it'll happen soon. Next take comes from Cowboy Joe. BO6 Zombies is probably the most fun zombies for high rounding in Zombies history.
That's crazy.
It's fast-paced and challenging while not being too much like Vanguard.
I personally disagree with this because I don't like kill streak spam. I feel like that is just not what COD Zombies is. But in a way, I do agree with him in terms of the pacing.
It also has so much replayability because of the different augments and loadouts you can make. And it's way easier to get the gobblegums you actually want because it's faster than the Dr. Monty machine thing. And they are mostly all useful. Also, I think the loadout system is actually good in this game. I despised it in past games, but in this one, the guns fall off by around 6.
Give and take on the loadouts. Like, the biggest issue I have with loadouts is because of loadouts, we have a worse point system. And that always, to me, like, rubs me the wrong way. If Treyarch can find some sort of solution to that, whether it's a perk augment or something, then I'll be happy with that.
6 or 7 anyways, so it doesn't even matter at that point what gun you choose, and I think it's great. I switch it out for a box or wall weapon most of the time anyways. The new punching perk is really underwhelming, however.
I agree. But Citadel de Mort, the swords, 4 elemental swords confirmed now.
Let's go.
That could be a big deal.
There's a couple different points that was made here. First of all, in terms of it being the most fun zombies for high rounding, I haven't gotten like really far to the high rounds yet. The farthest I've gotten is like round 50. So I don't know how the far high rounds are just yet. I will definitely try to get to those eventually. I've been so focused on Easter egg related stuff recently.
I just hope that like you still don't need to get mutant injections on Citadel de Mort, because like it would just be nice to fully rely on the wonder weapon like the old days, right? Or traps, you know, something cool.
But I think definitely like the 40s and 50s where I was at, it's pretty fun. I don't think it's necessarily the best, but I think it's definitely close to it. There's just a couple things they have to change in order to make it the best.
They did actually announce that they're shrinking the max ammo rounds. They're making them a lot less lengthier, which is such a W, man.
First of all, I definitely think they need to do something about the points. And I've talked about this many times before. There's a couple other opinions that
add an augment
in this video that all
Vault Raid is now coming into the game. Add a double points augment on that or something that acts like the old point system.
Evolve around the point system. But I think the difficulty of getting points isn't really a type of difficulty I enjoy. Like, obviously, I want the game to be harder, but I don't want the reason it's harder to be because I just constantly don't have any points. And
I agree. And I think that's why the perfect mitigation of that is having to buy a perk, you know, that literally can grant you more points. That would be sick.
I think if they were to just add ways of earning more points specifically through the zombies, it would definitely help. And I don't mean just increase the amount of points you get or decrease the prices of things. No, give us like actual specific skillful ways of earning more points. And obviously the classic point system would essentially...
I agree. Like the side Easter egg with the basketball in Terminus, more stuff like that I think is cool. Like side Easter eggs that are quick enough but skillful, where it can actually change something in terms of like a speed run or whatnot. Fully agree with that.
Be that. But there's definitely other ways to implement that. Maybe give us an attachment on full auto weapons that gives you the classic point system.
I think just putting on a perk augment is good enough.
The weapon deals less damage or something like that. Just something to give us ways of...
Like the talisman in Terminus, where you get double points, but you can also get hit. That was really sick. I just wish it was a little easier to get. It is a little bit time consuming.
Maximizing points beyond just getting the points that the game wants us to have at that point in the game. There is definitely a problem with boss spam right now as well, which I think they probably will patch at some point because a lot of people have been...
They have said that they are also nerfing manglers in high rounds, so we'll have to see, because it's like 20 manglers that spawn past round 31, bro.
Criticizing that, but I do like in general that it is more difficult than Cold War. Cold War's high rounds was way too easy. Were they fun? Yes, but they were so easy. It really didn't feel rewarding to get to any high round. It never really felt that rewarding to me, at least. So I...
Makes you think if they're going to bring back Ring of Fire, if that changes, you know?
Definitely.
I wonder.
Like the fact that these high roundings are a lot harder. And yes, there's a lot to mess around with, a lot of different augments, a lot of different gobblegums and special abilities. That's all really cool. When it comes to loadouts, I kind of agree for the most part, but I'm kind of slowly changing my opinion on that because I did share the opinion that the loadout system in this game isn't nearly as bad because the weapons fall off so fast, so you're more likely to hit the box and get new weapons.
You know what's ironic is that I only care about running the meta, and the meta right now is a pistol. It's the GS45. Like, isn't that just so funny? They add a loadout system. What am I running? The pistol.
I still agree with that, but I feel like once you start learning like what's the meta guns in the game, which we're starting to learn now, like for me, it's the ASG shotgun.
ASG,
that shotgun
GS45,
is incredible. You are actually better off just sticking with it and then just quickly upgrading the rarity as soon as possible, which is very easy to do. But I still do usually hit the box for a secondary weapon, like that's hopefully a blue rarity or higher, and just mess with that until I get enough salvage to start upgrading the other shotgun. So
I also just hope that Vault Raid gives you more salvage. It still feels like salvage earn rates are just a little on the slow side. Like it does literally take you until like round 25 to get a legendary weapon for the scrap. So we'll see.
I definitely am more likely to hit the box in this game than I was in Cold War. That's definitely good, but I don't think it's necessarily on the same level as classic zombies. And to the last point Cowboy Joe made about the punching perk being really underwhelming, which of course is melee maki.
Bad now. Will be good soon.
Yato, I would 100% agree. That perk is really bad and doesn't really help whatsoever. Hopefully they improve it over time because I definitely think it could be a lot better if they just buffed it. Next take comes from Flipsy. The gameplay loop needs to be tweaked. I feel like making the zombies bullet sponges while keeping it on points per kill makes it hard to progress.
Exactly, because you can literally come to a point where you shoot all your ammo and you have no points and you have no ammo and you cannot buy anything. And that is the worst part about the point system, is that in old zombie games, that could literally never happen unless you purposely wanted to lose all your points, right? In this game, though, you can shoot every shot on a zombie and literally lose all your ammo and all your points. That is something they have to fix somehow. I fully agree.
Yeah, I've said this before. I agree. Like, this is definitely an issue with the game currently, where I feel like the weapons don't really do enough damage in the high rounds. And because you're not actively getting points as you're shooting them, you get into this really annoying loop where you're just constantly going to get more ammo on your weapon.
Here's my solution, okay? They already have an ultra rarity in Black Ops 6 Zombies. It's the yellow rarity that you get for wonder weapons exclusively. Why not just add it into the arsenal machine? How about make it so it's 10,000 salvage, but once you get that ultra rarity on a gun, it can then be extremely powerful. I don't know. Could be cool.
Weapon, and it's only killing enough of the zombies to get you enough points to just rebuy ammo again when you run out of ammo. It's such a frustrating loop to get stuck in. You obviously avoid that loop if you just are smarter with your points early on in the game, but I don't like a system that kind of punishes you for trying out different weapons mid-game. You're kind of like completely punished for switching your weapon.
That's exactly my biggest issue, because it's like, we're going back to the meta loadouts, right? Instead of like actually playing zombies. Like, I love the OG days. You just buy anything and just use it.
Later in the rounds, you need to stick with the weapon and keep it all the way through, or else you're just gonna screw yourself over. And I don't really like that loop currently. I think they definitely need to do something either with the point system or maybe just increasing the damage of the weapons. I personally would prefer if they...
I hope Voltrade fixes this issue. Please, Treyarch, I hope they made Voltrade good enough that it fixes this issue.
They target the point system itself and just change that around. I feel like just buffing the weapons wouldn't really fix the core problem, at least for me personally.
It needs to be a multitude of different things, like not just buffing weapons. It needs to be point adjustments, Voltrade augments, like with certain things. It's a massive change, but it could happen for Citadel Day More, which is why I'm excited.
Would it make it at least a little bit better? Sure, maybe, because I don't really like difficulty surrounding just the enemies being like bullet sponges. I kind of agree with that. But I also think that's kind of just what zombies has always been. Like, you go back to the old games, it's always just kind of been the zombies have so much health, and that's how it happens in the later rounds. You have to start using all the weapons. But I think they definitely can find a way to make it challenging while the zombies aren't complete bullet sponges either. They can definitely find a way. I don't think they're like too crazy in this game. If you have a really solid weapon that's fully maxed out, it's going to be killing decently well. But yeah, of course, when you get into that whole situation where your weapon's not fully maxed out and you really can't get enough points to fully max it out because you're not killing enough zombies to actually get enough points.
Voltrade could fix this. That's what I'm saying. Like, I wouldn't be too upset about this. I genuinely believe this can be fixed in the future of this DLC. Let's hope for the game. Let's hope.
And yes, it starts to become kind of frustrating. Next hot take comes from Code 6 Beluga. The Liberty Falls Easter egg ending cutscene is bad and a real letdown.
Low-key, I very much agree with this.
What happened to Richtofen or the mansion? At least the map isn't that bad.
I don't think Panos is a cool enough character to build up. Granted, we don't know what he's for. He could appear in Citadel Day More. He could appear right at the end, maybe with Richtofen in DLC 4. I don't know. I just think right now, like, I do agree, it is a very weak ending cutscene. I agree with this.
To be honest. So I don't, like, fully agree. I wouldn't go as far as to call it bad, but I definitely think it was a bit underwhelming. And
we just don't know what it's for, right?
A bit disappointing.
I agree.
Especially based on what the intro cutscene built up. We had this whole cutscene with Richtofen and even Samantha in that...
Yeah, what the frick happened to this? Bro, I fully forgot. Where is this? Is this in Citadel Day More then? Dude, yeah, remember when everybody thought that Liberty Falls was going to have an underground area with this? Maybe it does. I don't know. It's so true. Where is this? This isn't in Terminus.
Lab-looking room. And Samantha actually ended up playing a role in Terminus, interestingly enough, but she didn't play a role in Liberty Falls at all.
She's just the AI in this game. It's so bizarre.
Neither did Richtofen. And I thought that was a little disappointing. I'm sure, obviously, they're going to play a role in the future DLC maps. But I was just thinking to myself, like, well, where are they in this map? Why have them be this big part of the intro cut?
Think about it. The major three things in the Liberty Falls intro cinematic are not in the map. Richtofen, the Wonderwaff, and Samantha Maxis. They're just not in here.
if they're not really going to be a part of the Easter egg. Instead, we have this new character, Panos, to talk about. And yeah, it was an interesting character. I liked learning about this character and just getting to see his conversations. And I definitely think there's some cool stuff with that cutscene. I like the idea of him kind of like taking our essence or something and becoming a person, even though he was previously a dark ether entity of some sort, or ghost.
It's just like, the issue I have with this cutscene, it asks two things. Number one, what is Panos going to do? And number two, are we going to rescue the person that got sent into the dark ether, being us? So it's like, I don't know.
Whatever you want to call it. I thought that was interesting, and I thought it was an interesting way to like kill off the operators, basically,
right?
Or at least banish them to the dark ether. But
because that's the thing, it's like, your character, are you really that important to go save in the dark ether? Not really. So it's like, it's open-ended for sure.
Again, it was just a little underwhelming given the fact that there's so much else that was being built up to that map. We got another take here from Thunderstruck 115.
And ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be my last take for this video. We've got literally half the video left, but I want to let you guys watch the rest with Expert Fusion, because this really reminds me of the OG days that I did with Remember That Time When. So honestly, let me know if you guys would like me to also do this myself and comment a bunch of things. I'd probably do one for Citadel Day more, honestly.
The fact that I can lag like crazy when playing solo is a massive problem with Black Ops 6 Zombies. I genuinely didn't think this would be an unpopular take, but the amount of people that have resorted to harassment over me pointing this out is insane.
It's true, and I think it's because not a lot of people have experienced it. Granted, I do think this happened during probably the most people playing the game at a single point in time. But I agree. This is the first Zombies game ever where you're lagging in a solo game because there's no offline. Granted, this did happen in MW3 Zombies, but I don't think it was as bad as what it was in BO6, you know?
That is insane that people would be harassing you over that. But yeah, the lagging issue is pretty bad right now, and it really just depends on the person and the account. Not everyone is having lag issues, and I think that's really important to make clear. Because yes, I've seen a lot of people that, you know, I'll mention that I'm having lagging issues, and then someone will be like, oh, I'm not lagging, so it must not be a problem. Like, people have that mentality, and it's so frustrating. Like, I
literally was hearing the same thing with BO4. I didn't get a blue screen during the Easter egg, so it's totally fine. Okay, dude.
You can clearly see that Black Ops 4's launch was clearly a problem. There was a lot of crashes for a lot of people.
I love how he brought that point up.
I was coming at someone who was having crashing issues and going, oh, I didn't crash, therefore it was actually not a big deal. That's ridiculous. That makes no sense.
Great minds think alike, man.
Now, it might not have been affecting my experience, therefore it didn't affect my launch experience, which was definitely good for me, but
it's still something to bring up, but also vice versa. It's not something to be like, oh, I didn't experience that.
Not change the fact that the game was still having a problem. And the same thing is happening now. There are clearly lag issues with Black Ops 6. And it's not just zombies, it's also multiplayer and even campaign, which is crazy.
And it's nothing to do with the actual content in the game. It's not like when you have like 20 manglers in the map that it lags. It's actually just the server stability itself. And so ultimately, I do hope as technology progresses that we do get better servers, but it's going to be tough to see. Like,
yes,
honestly,
all modes are now online. There was really no way to play them offline in any sort of offline servers. So you were always online, which means lag is possible even in solo matches. And yes, it is really frustrating. At least when lag happens online, it's like, okay, you know, you're on.
But granted, let's just play the other side here. You can save and quit and come back. Now, yes, it is upsetting when your save does not get like actually saved. But
online.
At least there's a caveat.
Solo, it's so frustrating, and it isn't because of your Wi-Fi either. Like, I have really great Wi-Fi, but even I'm experiencing a lot of lag in all modes in Black Ops 6, and it's been the case for most of the COD HQ games. I had this happen for Modern Warfare 3 as well. I think COD HQ as an application is just really buggy, and hopefully this is.
It's just a lot of games that you literally load in. I agree. I personally think we should get rid of the COD HQ. Like, just go back to having one game, one main menu, multiplayer campaign, zombies, literally.
It's like priority number one for Treyarch to get fixed, because it definitely is something that needs to be fixed. So next take is coming from AHY. Now, this is a long one. We have a lot of things that are being said in this opinion here. There's a lot of different points. So we're going to go through it one by one and discuss it. So this person says, everyone, in my opinion, is just in the honeymoon phase. Once that's up, people will see that there are still so many flaws that'll mean the game just isn't sustainable or fun long term because it's missing certain things that give the maps their identities, or it's just straight up got some flaws,
I can get that,
and then this person goes into some flaws. So first of all, I want to mention the whole honeymoon phase thing before.
So hold on, I want to just see what his flaws are, and I'll let you guys obviously check out the rest of this one. I do agree that most people are still in the honeymoon phase. Even by Citadel Day More coming out for December 5th, we're still in the honeymoon phase. It's barely been 2 months. Like, people have to realize, like, we're still just processing this. It doesn't, you're like, I had people asking me day one, where do you rank the map? Is it A tier? Is it B tier? It's like, let me just experience it, okay? But in his first point here, I do agree with it. Map-specific weapons should come back. I only ever really used the wall buys for camo grinding, but now that we're back to the meta and I just want to use the GS45s, what's the point of even having wall buys on the map? So in a way, I do agree with this. But ladies and gentlemen, make sure you go and check out Expert Fusion. This was an absolutely incredible video, and who knows, ladies and gentlemen, maybe we'll bring back Remember That Time one for BO6. But ladies and gentlemen, God bless, and I'll see y'all in that next one.